Hello, I'm David Kiley, or DK. Welcome to the Wheelprint Podcast, presented to you by PER4MAX, that puts the soul into the design of your custom sport or everyday wheelchair. As host of the Wheelprint Podcast, I will engage with my guests to uncover the power of their human spirit in their achievements or in their struggle. So kick back and enjoy the ride. Hello, I'm David Kiley. I'm the host of the Wheelprint Podcast, brought to you by PER4MAX Wheelchairs. Today's guest, I'm really jacked to have on because he's just a really close friend. He's a cool dude. He resides in Byron Center, Michigan. He is a strong family man living a beautiful life with his wife Morgan, his daughters Monroe and Callaway. He's got a young son that we simply call Coy, but his full name is McCoy. He's a little bass fisherman, motocross gearhead dude that Chris is bringing up. Chris is also the CFO of PER4MAX Wheelchairs, so I'm really happy and blessed to have him on. And he continues to blaze a trail in all that he does for everything and everybody else. Welcome, Chris Kommer, to the Wheelprint Podcast, my brother.
Man, it's good to be back. Am I number 40? What number am I?
You're somewhere in there.
I think you're up there. You're getting up there to episode 40. So
Yeah,
congratulations to you first off for 40 episodes. Me and Willie were able to be in a previous one, and yeah, man, high royalty in your guest list. So I'm very honored and privileged to be a part of this and to continue to see you just, leaving wheel prints for everybody as you go. There's been some incredible stories told in all those episodes, and it's super cool to be a part of it and be on it. So
yeah, right on. Well, today's going to be another example of one of those great episodes. I'm really looking forward to covering some ground with you and rehashing some old stories and just, having a cool combo like we're sitting across the room from each other. So, but, some of the basics that always have to be covered because people aren't in the know all the time. But why don't we talk a little bit about, right now, to kick us off, about your injury and how you came into this adapted sport space.
yeah, it's been 30 years of my life who've been involved with adaptive sports. So, and I know so many people come on and talk about the positive impacts it has. And yes, I'm living proof of it. And, obviously want to continue that. But as a 9-year-old, when you're injured, right? So it changes perspective for you and a lot of those around you. And it's about what you do, not how you do it, right? So, yeah, I grew up in a pretty active lifestyle, still do, right? So if you're gonna participate in some of those daredevil-esque activities and live that lifestyle, there's always opportunity for accidents to happen, right? And just like you and many others, right? My life was it was changed in a 1 second, situation in a boating accident, right? And you come out the other end as an amputee and blazing a whole different trail in life, right? And that's really comes down to, God's plan for us and in the trajectories that we all go on. So, yeah, lost my leg, very traumatizing situation for I think more so those around me. Obviously as time goes on, your brain protects you from those bad times, I like to think. And as a kid, you're so optimistic, right? So anyone that's close to me knows I do like to have fun and have a good time, right? And the irony of when I got hurt is, being exposed to an amputee maybe the day before, right? And then watching the movie Forrest Gump and seeing Lieutenant Dan with prosthetic legs. So, I woke up in the hospital and, my parents were like, "Hey man, you lost your leg." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We'll get fake ones like Lieutenant Dan. It's going to be all right." And then on the journey we went, and what a ride it's been. So
it's kind of crazy, because people still to this day have some sort of I don't know what it is. If it's they feel bad that I can't walk, right? And I can see them leading up to this, and I'm like, you know, I don't look at it that way anymore. Certainly it was traumatizing, as you mentioned. You were 9, I was 19, and now I go, man, this is just my life. This was mapped out. God wanted it this way, and I look at it as a blessing. There's just too much goodness around you, Chris, around me, what we love to do, what our family gets to do with us as a unit, and then all this different stuff that we're involved in. It's a blessing. So sympathy is not something that really adaptive athletes like you and I want to buy into. So I don't know if you get any of that, but I still do, and not a lot, because I don't even give it the opportunity for to set up camp in that. But do you experience that at all? Like,
Yeah, and when you're out, we're also, we're like we're so visible, right, to those around us. So I think for me, it's how I conduct myself anywhere I'm at, with confidence, a smile on my face. If anyone's coming up for any type of sympathy, it must be because I have a look on my face, or maybe it's a bad day. But I try not to have those, right? Or at least, if someone, opportunities with kids or in public is always a learning moment for people. To see me traveling through the airport with 4 wheelchairs, or unloading dirt bikes, or being active on the lake, right? Typically, anytime someone sees me, it's the first time they're experiencing something that level where they're like, wow, that guy's really, active and fit and still able to do everything, right? And it's differently. You can still do everything too, but it might have to be a different approach at times, right? But whether it's getting on a boat and going out in the middle of Lake Michigan, or riding a snowmobile, or water skiing, and there's always an opportunity to show someone that just because a circumstance change your trajectory doesn't mean you still can't enjoy all those things, and it's an opportunity to teach everybody at that moment.
yeah, and greeting people that you do know and don't know with a smile, which you do most of the time. That's the game changer of the moment. But now, if you look depressed, somebody else might, you know.
Give you that sympathy.
Yeah. There you go. So, anyways, brother. So, 9 years old. Yeah, that was your age when we had our first encounter. I had moved to North Carolina, and I was working at Charlotte Institute of Rehabilitation in adaptive sports, and we took on, maybe in that first year or my second year, the national championships for the NWBA and its junior division, and it was huge, a huge undertaking, a huge tournament held at Davidson College. So, how do you remember that?
Well, shortly after my injury, it was straight into adaptive sports and wheelchair basketball, and I got put in the clutches of Lee Montgomery and Mary Freebed Adaptive Sports here as my coach. Still one of the closest people to me in my life today. Some amazing teammates along the way. One particular that stands out is Paul Schulte. So I was definitely exposed to the sport at a really good spot and time, especially when I'm on my first airplane ride to North Carolina, sitting next to Coach Lee, and no one other than Sandy Kiley picks us up from at the airport with a truck and a trailer. And little did I know at the time, right? And those memories, those are core memories, really, that stick out for me. And I'm sure for you, it's a blur at the time. But as 9, 10-year-old kid, to walk into a university and see a sport that's brand new to you at such a amazing level, right? And obviously shout out to like Barb Radbell and creating that junior division and Lee Montgomery for still coaching at this time, and all the other people that are contributing. The sport's at an all-time high for kids, and that's a great thing to see because of the impacts it had. But yeah, we went on to win a national championship, and hopefully we'll clip some stuff in here of that weekend. But I didn't get, I was 11, 10 years old. I could barely hit the basket, right? And we didn't have a prep team. I was on the varsity team. So, I got to watch a lot of those first games, but, observing how you conducted that tournament and everything, how that impacted me when I went home, and seeing, Paul Schulte and Dave Radbell at the time, and juniors going head to head in a national championship game. I knew exactly where I wanted to put all my eggs, from there on out, right? And, growing up wanting to emulate things that I'd see Lee do or Paul do, or even as I got older, you and other players that have impacted my game, along the years. So there's that first moment though. And I guess that comes full circle, right? Because it's that presence of you being involved with that event that I felt. And I continue to feel even to this day when we're doing 3-on-3 events or Hall of Fame events, the things that you're involved with, DK, it just has this ambiance and this feeling and this vibe about it, right? That like sets the tone for a lot of our community, So I know for us, we try to create those types of things within our business, and how we treat people have this vibe and this feel. But man, that influence really comes from you, and how those events and how that feeling goes every time we get through one of those amazing opportunities,
experiences. So. Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, but this is really your turn to get the shine, brother. But I so appreciate it. I'm humbled by it. But hey, it's here we are. You went from 9, and now you're an elite wheelchair basketball player in the United States right now, looking for a national championship, right? So let's talk about your team and your chances in March Madness. That's where we're at.
Man, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to this year's nationals, and with the squad that we have, and then the level that we're playing and continuing to play, right? So 39 years old. It was just a birthday earlier this month, so yeah, it feels great, right? And the biggest thing for me is trying to balance the fun in the work of it, right? I've devoted my life to wheelchair basketball. It's an amazing thing, but it's like also trying to maintain that labor of love, and remember why we're doing it. And I'm having more fun now at this point in my life and career playing with my bros at a high level. Man, you win and you lose, obviously we all want to win. I spent a lot of years, in juniors and in college where it was different. And then, there's years where you're not always, as successful, but the brotherhood you get from that whole league, the competitive outlet you get, it's just incredible. And I'm so grateful to continue playing, because, the end can always be closer than the beginning, right? When you start at 9 years old, 10 years old, I don't know if there's another 30 years of gameplay ahead of me. Maybe there is, who knows, but definitely not at the level that we're playing now. Yeah, I'm just grateful for that opportunity to keep going. I'm so appreciative of, our team, Mary Freebed and Lee Montgomery, and, everyone involved that helps with that. And it's fun, right? Because I spend a lot of time in these gyms, watching or helping other people with equipment. So it's great to get out there and play and cheer it up a little bit with the boys. So
Yeah, man. But let's be real. Winning and being good is the deal, right? I mean, it really helps everything. And so to know that you're going in and you have a real chance to contend is it really keeps the laser focus, right?
yeah, it's competitive at D1 this year. I think for sure those I mean all 16 teams are solid, right? But like you would see some drop off, I think, in years prior where you'd have, the top 3 or 4. There's a big separation. But there's been a lot of guys, moving around. There's a lot of top tier talent and Paralympic talent, coming out on a weekly basis, and it's cool. So we're going in fifth seed. You know, we'll take it how it comes and take it one game at a time, right? We definitely have had some really good games this season and some close ones with the defending champs, and if we can bring it all together at the right time, I love our chances of going on a run, at nationals. So, or at least every team you play is definitely going to respect you for the opportunity, right? And know that that we're coming. So, pumped. I mean, great teammates, great organization, and to keep doing it at this level it's a blast, man. It really is.
Well, and at this time of the season, you're not coming in under anybody's radar, right? I mean, everybody pretty much knows what's coming at them because of the season's worth of competition. Similar to my women's team that I coach, we beat everybody in December that was ranked above us or near us, and now there's all that does is create attention,
Right.
but that's what it's about, knowing that you're going up against a formidable opponent, so
So we started at year 1. Now we're on year 30. There's the whole in between. That got us there, right? But to be able to just stay in love with the game that long, and thankfully I'm healthy, right? My body still feels good. I mean, as good as it can feel. I guess I got a new chair yesterday, and I was breaking it in, and there's some different muscles you work, even though the chair doesn't change much. This morning, I'm like, wow, some new equipment. So we're working in that. It's been 8 years, since I've upgraded equipment. So
what?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's because you're too busy building it for everybody else.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to come in with a chair when you have everyone we work with, right? Everyone wants that stuff as quick as possible, and man, we get a lot of work where it takes some months to get through some of that stuff. So there's also something to be said about the equipment being able to last that long too, right? If I wanted a new chair every year or every tournament, it could be a possibility, but definitely keeping
no
that
doubt,
stuff.
Chris. And you're not exactly without bringing some of the hurt, like in contact and facing up against the bigger boys in the neighborhood, right? It's like wheelchair ball is such a grinding out physical sport, man, and so the equipment has to match that level of intensity, and I know PER4MAX has been delivering that component for a really long time. But Chris, I know you're so busy, man. I said you are the chief financial officer, but man, you do so many more things that just keeps so many balls in the air. I called you a few days ago and you were driving a PER4MAX van from Michigan to Dallas, just to drop it off and take care of business while you're there, I'm sure. But, keeping the balance between everything that Chris Kommer has to do related to career and the company and family, so I know when you get the opportunity to kind of break loose on a leisure pursuit like an airfoil, water ski, snowmobile, whatever it is, I think you're filling that side of your goodie basket because it gives you balance. And talk a little bit about that, because I'm still so amazed at how high in the air you go on an airfoil, And when we drop in the image of that for our YouTube listeners and viewers, it's going to blow some minds.
Yeah, that's another labor of love of a lifetime of being willing to throw your body in a uncomfortable position, right? So there's no denying that I'm a very physical player on the floor, right? I think any of my opponents, anyone listening to this that's had any part of my wheelchair basketball career will know that. Um, but yeah, the air chair, it's a good cross sport, cross training approach, and that's where we talk about that balance, right? And man, wheelchair basketball can be a year-round deal, right? Especially it has been for me in life when you're doing USA stuff and club stuff and you're training. Still for us for work, it's the same way. Like you say, yes, I'm busy. I'm driving here one day. Next week we'll be in Champaign, the national. So I'm not perfect. Nobody is. But I try my best to prioritize some of that family time, some of that leisure time. Living on the lake has been good for the lifestyle of staying behind the boat. Nowadays, it's behind the steering wheel while the kids enjoy themselves, and being able to share that with them is so cool to see them, doing their thing, wakeboarding, kneeboarding, wanting to tube. I love that for them, and I love that for our family as a good activity. Keeps us having fun, being active. And there's dangers that come along with it all, right? So definitely a lot of our hobbies are a little bit more in the danger zone than I would say wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair basketball is a pretty safe, relatively safe thing for me, I suppose. Outside of some of my chosen lifestyle, activities. So
Yeah. Well, sweet. I can't wait to get back to Byron Center and to your crib, man, on that lake and with them big bass in there, and then being on the boat to see you catch air like that that was 2 years in a row now I've been up that way, and really, really enjoyed my time with you and the family, and of course Hall of Famer, your coach, my friend, and Lee Montgomery. That Lee could have made the Hall of Fame on service, or he could have made it as a player, and he's both, but I'm here right now, Chris, to share some gratitude to PER4MAX. Not just for what you do for me, but for what you do for so many people around the world, and but in my particular case, there's not much that I haven't asked you to be part of that you would turn me away. You PER4MAX has been the title sponsor of DK3, 20 years of providing a prize money elite invitational tournament, and Willie and yourself and PER4MAX and all the gang have been so supportive. You have chosen also to be the title sponsor of my passion and trying to change the landscape of the Hall of Fame of the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. And we're doing it. This past 4 years, there is not a better example of a Hall of Fame induction ceremony in the entire world, in my mind, as what we've been able to accomplish with our greats in the sport. And that's also because of the teamwork and synergy that we bring together with PER4MAX and your people, and some of your athletes that are going in. And then just for this podcast, I mean, that's a trifecta right there. You're the title sponsor of this. So, why?
Guess I'm not good at saying no.
Well, yeah.
No, it's because of everything that's got me to where I'm today is because of those that have come before me, right? And I'm such I'm so appreciative of the history of our sport to be able to like, step into this sport with a Hall of Famer like Lee and have relationships with people like yourself and others who've contributed to this sport for so long, right? So it's relationships, and that's what I really kind of pride ourselves on with PER4MAX and personally trying to like foster as many of those productive relationships as possible in knowing that I have the support of all of you guys in our brand in what our mission is going to be echoed around the world through all those people that we support in hopefully just continue to reach that 9-year-old kid or that 10-year-old kid that needs adaptive sports and or that 19-year-old kid that needs to have something get them out and be active, right? And there's so many sports too that we support, right? Like this wheelchair basketball is a huge part of my life and our brand, but it's not exclusive to what we do. I'm working with a lot of adaptive fitness athletes and tennis and pickleball and wheelchair softball and wheelchair football now is continuing to grow, right? So just trying to have our hands in that pot of all that stuff of showing support where we can, because the model of PER4MAX has been to provide chairs for people by people in chairs, right? And we understand sometimes these tournaments need a little extra help, and sometimes individuals need a little extra help, and obviously at the end of the day wheelchairs need to be sold and shipped and purchased to make this all work, but we hope that the things that we're doing outside of that and just the contributions and things that we make to not only yourself but all of those other people that have had 25 years now plus of relationship with our brand, that are out there actively writing grants and fundraising and organizing events to help fundraise equipment, right? Like there's just so much work that's gone into it by all of those people, and we get to build that equipment for them, but also try to help out and give back when we can, right? And that's I think the ultimate perk of this too is just to be able to be in a position where we can support all these different movements over the years, from Hall of Fame to DK to the rebound to
You
all of
name
the
it, yeah,
yeah,
forever.
so just building that pedigree of support in looking to the future, right? To how are we going to continue to make it better? How can we have a tournament in 2026 that impacts a 9-year-old like me to be in the same situation we are? We can reverse the roles. Maybe I'm interviewing that kid someday and be like, man, tell me, like, how did this all happen? How do you continue to make it go? And it's because of the positive relationships and the impact that adaptive sports and wheelchair basketball specifically has had on my life. You think of all the relationships that you've been fostered for years, friendships, brotherhood. It's just an amazing journey for sure.
Well, and begs the question, you can't help everybody and you can't say yes to everybody. So is there anything in particular when you look at partnerships that stand, that makes you take an extra look or to say, I want to be involved with that, or we need to be? And bottom line, it's got to move the needle, like you said, in terms of sales or brand and everything that leads to the end game. But is there anything you look for in a partner that you want to share?
Yeah, it's loyalty, right? I mean, that's what it
Amen.
comes down to is just loyalty and support. There's nothing bad that in our 29 to 30 years of a relationship that you've ever, have nothing but loyalty to you and everything that you've done, right? And the respect is mutual, and it's like that across a lot of different platforms. So it's big for us, and I think it's big in a world of sometimes chaos to, maintain those good relationships and loyalty and keep the positive vibes always going in the right direction. It's not that complicated, right? Life shouldn't be so complicated. We make it complicated for ourselves. I make it complicated for me at times with all the things that we try to lift, but I do it because I know that I have the strength to do that. And yes, there's times of feeling overwhelmed, but just keeping faith of what my ultimate mission is here, and that's to positively impact as many people as I can while I'm here on Earth, right? And I think that you've lived by that same principle for a long time, and as well, and it's just it's something that keeps you going every day too. I'm so blessed and to be in such a unique circumstance in life. Um, you know, Healthy family and wife, and our business is so closely adjacent to my hobby, which is also something I've devoted my life to. Right? It's so. I just feel really lucky to be in that, and want to try to, do everything we can and I can to bring others, that joy and excitement through their wheelchair or through, a relationship or through an opportunity.
Yeah, well, you're doing that, man, at an elite and gold medal level. So, you personally, as well as the company and PER4MAX, so changing, changing the game, changing lives, and so on behalf of everyone that receives from you, I want to just say thank you and mean it. Um, So look, man, we've got the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which is now just a thing within the NWBA, and we have a really star-studded cast with the class of 2025. Uh, Leading that headliner role is one of our PER4MAX team members, and Matt Scott. We have Stevie Rocket Welch. We have Jeremy Opie Lade. And then as a contributor, we have Paul Bosey Bose. So, but man, you've really become so attached to the Hall of Fame, and without what you bring, not just in terms of sponsorship dollars, but all the other resources that you provide to support through your marketing arms, Angelique, and or your people that could serve the Hall of Fame, and the direct promotion that you give it is unbelievable. But Michigan is getting another inductee, Matt Scott. So talk briefly about what you think about what's coming up in Richmond on the April 12th.
Well, congrats to the whole class, and specifically Matt and I have been close. He grew up 2 short hours away, and we've battled on the weekends, that's for sure, between our junior teams and at that time, we had D1, and Matt was teammates with Tree and Mo and Pat Anderson in that Detroit squad for a period of time. So we would see them on a weekly basis. But he's such an incredible human, and talk about continuing to give back and live in a similar life of always greeting someone with a smile. He's accomplished so much as an athlete, and he's accomplishing so much as as an active member and contributor to our sport now. The Hall of Fame is lucky to get someone like Matt Scott for sure, and it is a little crazy to think that my peer groups are starting to get inducted. Especially Opie too. We spent time playing against each other at UTA and Whitewater days, right? And there's still a good chance we'll probably see some of these guys in a few weeks at nationals. So It's cool how long these careers have been going on and the level that we've been playing. I know Matt's still just as fit as ever, if not the strongest he's ever been, as an athlete and just an ultimate beast. So super pumped for him. And then, even Steve Welsh, right? I have such fond memories, especially getting to know him and knowing him, a little closer through Willie. I would be at the shop at PER4MAX in those early days, in the warehouse, sweating it out, no AC, 110. I'm working on something. And Steve would come through. It's about 45 minutes until his flight. Hey man, I'm just stopping in because I need some parts before I go. And I'm like, well, when are you leaving? Can you leave it for? No, I got to go to the airport in like 10 minutes. So, uh, just a classic Steve. Those are some fond memories I have of him. Obviously, being able to play against him too. When we were in the UTA days, we'd be playing against the Mavs or the Mavericks, and then uh, you know earlier in my D1 time too. So I don't have a close relationship or know Paul very well, but I'm sure as all the things he's contributed to internationally into the game
Yeah.
are more than worthy. But yeah, it's a fun part of the weekend that I always look forward to. And let me start with this: like my first Hall of Fame banquets were like, man, maybe 10 plus years ago, and I know that they didn't have the DK touch and vibe and feel yet. In being on Lee's team, right? It was important for us to always go and hey, we're going to the Hall of Fame, and the same for PER4MAX, right? But I've been a business owner and from 24 years old on, right? So I feel like some of these things that I'm an old soul, but I'd be in some of these rooms as one of the younger gentlemen. So now that some of your peers get inducted in, but it was something that I learned so much about the sport by sitting in those and about individuals and the contributions they made and as a fan of this, right? Like I love the history of it. I love to know how we came to where we are and who impacted that and who were the top players. So it's been an awesome experience for me just to learn more about our game and the impact that it's had on these individuals and the impact more so that they've made on the world and our community through those accomplishments. So I'm sure it's gonna be a fun party for these guys. Obviously, there's games to be played on the next day too, so we'll work on balancing of that. And there's wheelchairs to be sold as well that weekend, right? So again, one of those
And
circumstances of
books.
yeah, and books. Yeah, absolutely. We got to get some books going.
Come
I
on,
actually
baby.
had a question for you about that, so I jotted down a couple of things, if it's all right. One we kind of touched on a little bit, and it was going to be my question to you, a tip for a lifetime of support to the game and finding that balance, right? You're a dad and a grandpa, and you have hobbies outside of this game too, right? So I know that I love that you brought that up. So that was something, but more importantly, how does it feel to be like a successful author now? You know, and
Yeah, I can't really. I always have trouble about talking about any of my success, but this really does mean a lot. It took 3 years to accomplish, and we're really psyched that it has reached the people we wanted it to reach and people that we love and care about and that I care about and the 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 feedback received about people that know me think they knew it all about me, but the book unveils everything, and people had no idea. So we have had a 5-star Amazon rating, and still can be found moving on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and on my website for signed copies. But
you could also get a
now,
signed copy with your wheelchair at any given point too.
Well, that's another like blessing, you know. PER4MAX bought all those books to give out to customers that purchased shares, and they would open their box and be surprised by getting a signed version of that. And it's those kinds of acts that will make me lay down for PER4MAX, you know, do whatever you ask, and because of levels of that support. But hot off the press, we are now committed to doing an audio book, you know, for all those people that I don't ever read a book, man. And I need it for the car. I need it for the office. Okay, man. We've heard you. It's just it's a small little operation running that kind of show for a book. So, but we're in discussions right now of how to make that happen, and it will happen. That we have an audio book coming out. So, a very proud time, Chris. A long answer to your question. Because it's easy to sit back and think about writing, which I did for a long time, but it's a whole nother thing to not only write it, but then have to promote it, sell it, and anyways, very worthwhile.
Yeah, well, I know we're looking forward to, you know, seeing some of that at Nationals and have you sign in some books and
yeah, I'll be in the booth with you guys,
books.
man. I'll be in the booth, and so there's gonna be traffic, and yeah. So I can't wait. And
Yeah, but we got a new booth set up coming hot off the presses. Hopefully everything arrives in time, knock on wood, but there'll be plenty of space for us to engage with the community, that's for sure. So,
well, that kind of, you know, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit to a question. You know, everything arriving on time. What has the tariffs done to shake PER4MAX world a little bit? Have you felt any of that to date?
I have not much, right? Obviously, it's been a very interesting time for the last 4 or 5 years with all the different curveballs that have been thrown, you know, our way from a, you know, pandemic standpoint, and then you know, global supply chain crisis or standpoint, right? So, you know, fortunately for us, the PER4MAX too, you know, we're in a very stable place, you know, in our established business for 25 years. You know, there's a good amount of supply and inventory to build that equipment. No doubt, you know, that could impact us, right? There's things that are imported that could impact us. But as of now, you know, things have been pretty stable, and you know, that's one thing too with what we do and where we're at is the political environment is tough, and it's tough now, and the impact that it can have, you know, on disabled people and organizations and things. You know, even people's health care for that matter, right? So try not to let that impact us, and just keep valuing and elevating our partners and those, you know, our users, right? You know, when I'm out talking about our brand and if I could categorize our user, right, it's from you to me to a 9-year-old of an active disabled guy that's flying to go handle business at the Hall of Fame or run a 3-on-3 tournament or go visit their family, you know. So we're in this category that's unique, and that's why I think we want to try to instill that in all the next generation of, you know, you can be a working, traveling dad, you know, partner, teammate, and just kind of keeping your nose to the grind, right? When you say March Madness, for me, it's not that I've been watching any basketball. It's that I'm running around like a madman trying to get everything ready for our tournament. So, you know, or for the busy season that we're coming into, right? Because as soon as we get out of nationals, shoot, we've got a week off after women's and veterans, and then we're back in Venice Beach, you know, for 3-on-3. So I know with the tariff stuff, things have been so subject to change, and it's almost like a moving target. So it's hard to really anticipate and forecast. But you know, I got my nose to the ground here, and trying to be the best teammate and coworker and business owner and marketing guy and, you know, dad. husband, son, all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
try not to get distracted with a lot of that extracurricular stuff. There's things I love, and when you talk about, the outlet for stuff, right, of that reality or worrying about tariffs or however, for me is family, and focusing on that kind of component of it. And, when I'm not working, investing that time into that. This afternoon we're heading off to a dirt bike track with my boy to, go pound laps. And so there's not gonna be any time to watch any basketball or March Madness, this afternoon either, or this evening. But that's like a good break at the end of the week of, I started my week Monday morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, jumping in a work van, driving it across country in gale forced winds. Yeah. and,
You do it all,
and
brother.
we're ending it at the dirt bike track with the family, so,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's the short answer would be to control what you can control
yeah,
and be great at it, and that's what will keep PER4MAX rising to the top. No matter. But we're getting all this info piped into everybody's household these days, and I try not to watch it all because it's like, no, no, thank you. But anyway, so technology, man, we're at a place of just being, as users in the adapted sports space or the everyday life space. We're so fortunate to have such trick, lightweight, good looking, sweet ride rolling machines, So what in the world is left to do to any new innovations or directions you see that could happen, or it's just in such a great time of technology, and talk to us about that, Chris.
well, I mean, it's huge on the equipment side of things, of course, but even in today's athlete, right? You're seeing athletes extending careers longer than normal. When you look at someone like a LeBron James, and I think it can apply in our sport too, especially when you see what Paulie had did this summer, coming back to Team USA, in his 40s, right? So it's it's equipment, it's access to more knowledge as an athlete, things that can better prepare your body. But yeah, on the wheelchair side of things, there's always evolution of, there's a new tire or a new component or a different material. For us, it's that balance too of, man, you really want it to be durable and you want it to hold up and last, for me, 8 years in that circumstance, right? But I can tell you in 8 years, there's evolution to how we build that equipment and the things that, are going on under the hood for performance, and they definitely can feel the difference, and now, there's the huge debate of, going super lightweight or having more weight, and it's debatable amongst us all at that level.
And it always has been, though, man. It's
Yeah,
like we want light, but we don't want it to break, But so therein lies the challenge.
yeah,
Uh,
and it's things are bound to break,
yeah.
especially I don't ever play a game trying not to break something,
Ah, yeah.
not my own body, but the equipment. It can happen, right? And but now, man, with like the Spinergy wheels seem to be so bulletproof, and they have been for as long as PER4MAX has been around. And I feel blessed to be a part of that evolution too. We would get wheels. I would put them on. We'd blow a hub apart and say, "Try again. Let's get it stronger. Let's try this one again." And that's really what it's been like with PER4MAX, and how me and Willie have established a relationship. Me and Willie have been close for 20 years, right? And predating our partnership. And it was mostly because I would tear stuff up, and I'd call him up and I'd say, "Hey, let's work on this. I can make this better." And here we are today, where I'm not saying stuff doesn't have its problems at times, but mostly that comes from being mishandled by the airlines or something else happening, right? It's rare to see major things happening, preventing a team from a gold medal or say a third gold medal in a row. Uh, you know, those games and that stuff for me are really stressful to watch. Even watching a collegiate game that's not a national championship tournament, it could be just a regular league game. It's hard for me to watch those because if something happens to that equipment, and it's ours and it's preventing that team from success or that player from, achieving or unlocking that next level. That's hard, right? So I would sit on pins and needles and watch those boys play the last 3 rounds of Paralympics. Just man, fourth quarter, game's tight. What happened? And obviously, knock on wood, that equipment did its job and it didn't have any issues when it mattered, because that is something that's different with our sport versus others. Is your body can fail you, and cause something, but in this circumstance, there's another component to the piece. And one, that chair needs to be, the best possible thing it can be for you and as a player, right? It's to really maximize your peak performance, but also, be able to hold up to someone like me slamming into your chair, or
Oh
so.
yeah. No, I get it, man. And it's there's a fine line to walk between weight and strength and durability. I mean, I had a moment in time of making snow skis and mono skis, and my ski coach would always say, if you're not breaking it, you're not skiing hard enough. So. Uh, but in today's age, with the way things cost, and especially if you're talking to a parent, you know, whose child is gonna need maybe 2 to 3 chairs just because of growth, so there's a lot to be considered. Um, well, look,
It's an expensive sport,
yeah, yeah, uh,
and it's
yeah,
equipment, it's travel, and yeah, for us, it's having a piece of equipment for any player, right? So those guys with an unlimited budget that want the lightest, fastest possible thing for them, that's an option,
yeah,
right? If there's a program or a program chair or a new player or a new injury getting into that equipment, there's an option for them too, right? But in the day and age of titanium and carbon fiber and custom machine parts and ceramic bearings and the list can go on, and the more and more of that stuff you add, the crazier the price point can get on that stuff. But the biggest thing is making sure you see those results on the floor, and we're battling for national championships and gold medals, and the equipment isn't something that's going to be a stress point, because your battle buddy's ready to get in there with you and help you achieve new heights. So
right on, man. Well, we're burning up just about an hour. I know you've got to pick up Coy here pretty soon, but the next thing I wanted to cover is just kind of if you've got any other questions, like open mic moment, that you want to say anything, ask anything, and or just parting words. Now's the time.
yeah, well, again, I want to balance. I want to get back onto the balance for you, right? Like, talked about your tricks. I know it's been 50 plus years of support to wheelchair basketball and devotion of your time and labor of love, but you have successfully raised a family, and now now as a grandfather, still active in the sport. So I know you commended me on talking about balance. Again, none of us are perfect, right? We try to always do our best to do all, to do what's right every time for our family, for ourselves, for our career. But what are things that you've thought or found to be successful?
Well, brother, when you are wired like me or you you do not only what you have to do to make a great living, but you do what you love to do. And I gotta say that I wasn't the best at finding balance when I was filling my goodie basket to the brim, and chasing championships and medals and opportunities and speaking, travel. My family, they sacrificed, me being gone, and I can sit here and say I didn't have a whole lot of choice. I was driven to be that person. It provided, but yet it stole from the family unit, But when I got towards the end and of actual, elite competition and training, everything that takes you away, and as you mentioned, now I'm a grandfather, so now I have the opportunity to really give all of me and stay engaged with being a husband and being a grandfather, a parent. We got 2 grandkids here this moment, and 2 of the boys, and I can't wait to get outside and mess around with them. But now is when I got to make big boy decisions to be home, and so to answer your question, I didn't do a great job. I talk about how important it is. If you're an athlete, you better figure out, or if you're a Chris Kommer, you better figure out ways that you can make your wife feel appreciated, when you're gone so much, because marriages are about, being together as much as possible. And this time of my life, travel with my wife, going to every place. She'll be in Richmond. We'll be in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're coaching the #1 Charlotte Lady Hornets at the national tournament. She's there at book signings and helping me deliver that. So we do everything together and hardly ever separate these days. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so that.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at all those events,
Yeah,
because I'll be at them all, right there with you. And I guess that's a
yeah,
message too to everyone. The real MVPs are our wives, right? Because, man, a lot of what I do is not possible without her holding things down here with the
yeah,
family. And
yeah, man.
I spend a
I
lot of
go
time
off
on
the
the road.
rails, Chris. I go off the rails, and thank God my wife is calming and her spirit is serene. Because I'm a whack job sometimes with everything going on. You
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah, I get those calls. Are we going to be seeing you in Southern California too for the 3-on-3?
me.
Yeah.
Oh, Sandy and I both.
Good.
Yeah. I just double checked my reservation at Hotel Irwin to make sure, and I got that. I just called before this podcast on that, and we still have to ink our flights. But yeah, no, we're there. We'll be there for a week because I got family and friends out there as well. But dang, man, a week in California fly by like a blink. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's another one to look forward to. I know, Matt's done a good job, I think, in taking over what
A
legacy was
great
built
job.
there. And
A
man, I
great
look forward to
job.
seeing the future of that. And funny story about that. I don't know if you can remember. I think it was like 2006, maybe 2007. And you probably knew of me, but didn't know me well. And I would just left UTA and all the boys were playing in your 3-on-3. It was new, maybe a year or two old, and I'd see there. I'd be like, hey man, how do I get involved in this, right? So I wish I could find that. I remember I'd sent you an email. Aaron Gooch, close friend of mine, gave me your contact info back then and asked if I could be invited and be a part of that. And I think other than for a few years there when I was maybe having a kid or something, I was able to make every one of them, and still something I look forward to, right? And we'll continue to support, as long as we keep having these events with Matt, and it's a fun tournament to play in. It's a fun tournament to view. So looking forward to seeing you guys there, and celebrating more of that Hall of Fame success with Matt. So
yeah, man, he richly deserves all that, as all the entire class of 2025. Well, look, brother, this is that time where we're going to close. So I want to thank our listeners for joining in, and make sure you're checking us out on Apple and Spotify and on our YouTube channel, because for this episode, there's going to be some great visuals. Having said that, just be a good human being, and, keep it out of the ditch. All right. Thanks so much to Chris Kommer, my good friend, brother, and let's continue to blaze trails. Peace. I know you enjoyed today's guest on the Wheel Print Podcast, and thank you for listening. I invite you to check out all our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, PER4MAX Wheelchairs, the sweet ride. 25 years of excellence and experience. Choose PER4MAX and never be let down. Follow us on Instagram at DK3_solo of the game.